Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, impending biosphere destruction. Oh my God, that sounds very scary. Oh no. Let's not talk about this. Let's be positive and be optimistic and talk about something fun and nice. That's not actually what this channel is about. Actually dealing with reality as it stands and trying to cope with that reality and not run away from it and hide, because it is a pretty overwhelming problem for a lot of people, and the more you understand, the more you probably don't want to understand. But that's what this channel is about. We're here to discuss all the things around climate change, the reality of climate change, and how difficult that can be to deal with. For some people, the difficulty in dealing with it is done by, let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it, shall we? And that's unfortunate because it's a real problem and it's going to impact a lot of people's lives, especially the younger people, the youth, our children. Anyways, moving on. So this this video might be kind of dark. Well, not kind of, but it will be dark. As dark as it usually is, maybe a little bit darker. But real quickly, I just wanted to, somebody threw a newspaper in our driveway. Garbage. Here's some more plastic and paper to throw in the trash. But on the front page of this little newspaper called the Epoch Times, interestingly enough, the headline is Trump lauds announcement of new $1.7 billion steel mill in the Southwest. Because of course we need more steel and we need more steel mills. And that's just the kind of thing that he enjoys pumping up. So quickly, Counsel Thyself posted this article from Paul Kingsnorth in Orion magazine. And this thing is long. I mean, really long. There's just no way I would be able to read the whole thing. It would take me, it would be a really long video to read this whole thing. But this is an amazing article. It's very good. He talks about Ted Kaczynski, if you just to show you how deep Paul Kingsnorth is getting into this whole thing. But what I wanted to do is read just a little excerpt from this, and I'm going to link it below if you all want to read it. I actually haven't read this whole article because it is so dang long, and I don't have time for much these days, and that's unfortunate. So what I'm going to do is read this later when I'm going to sleep, probably. But what I wanted to read is this section here. The Green Movement, which seemed to be carrying all before it in the early 1990s, has plunged into a full-on midlife crisis, unable to significantly change either the system or the behavior of the public, assailed by a rising movement of skeptics and by public boredom with being hectored about carbon and consumption, colonized by a new breed of corporate spivs for whom sustainability is just another opportunity for selling things. The Greens are seeing a nasty realization dawn. Despite all their work, their passion, their commitment, and the fact that most of what they have been saying has been broadly right, they are losing. There is no likelihood of the world going their way. In most green circles now, sooner or later, the conversation comes around to the same question: what the hell do we do next? There are plenty of people who think they know the answer to that question. One of them is Peter Kariva, who would like to think that he and his kind represent the future of environmentalism, and who may turn out to be right. Kariva is the chief scientist of the Nature Conservancy, which is among the world's largest environmental organizations. I used to get their email letter. I don't know what happened to it. I don't think I get it anymore. He is a scientist, a revisionist, and one among a growing number of former Greens who might be called neo-environmentalists. The resemblance between this coalescing group and the Friedmanite neoliberals of the early 1970s is intriguing. Like the neoliberals, the neo-environmentalists are attempting to break through the lines of an old orthodoxy that is visibly exhausted and confused. Like the neoliberals, they are mostly American and mostly male, and they emphasize scientific measurement and economic analysis over other ways of seeing and measuring. Like the neoliberals, they cluster around a few key think tanks. Then the Institute of Economic Affairs, the Cato Institute, and the Adam Smith Institute, now the Breakthrough Institute, the Long Now Foundation, and the Copenhagen Consensus. Like the neoliberals, they are beginning to grow in numbers at a time of global collapse and uncertainty. And like the neoliberals, they think they have radical solutions. Kureva's ideas are a good place to start in understanding the neo-environmentalist. He's an outspoken former conservationist who now believes that most of what the Greens think they know is wrong. Nature, he says, is more resilient than fragile. Science proves it. Humans degrade and destroy and crucify the natural environment, he says, and 80% of the time it recovers pretty well. Wilderness does not exist. All of it has been influenced by humans at some time. Trying to protect large functioning ecosystems from human development is mostly futile. Humans like development, and you can't stop them from having it. Nature is tough and will adapt to this. Today, coyotes roam downtown Chicago, and peregrine falcons astonish San Franciscans as they sweep down skyscraper canyons. As we destroy habitats, we create new ones. Now, the science has shown us that nothing is pristine and nature adapts, and there's no reason to worry about many traditional green goals, such as, for example, protecting rainforest habitats. Is halting deforestation in the Amazon feasible, he asks? Is it even necessary? Somehow you know what the answer is going to be before he gives it to you. If this sounds like a kind of thing that a right-wing politician might come out with, that's because it is, because Kureva is not alone. Variations on this line have recently been published or pushed by the American thinker Stuart Brand, the British writer Mark Linus, the Danish anti-green poster boy Bjorn Lomborg, and the American writers Emma Maris, Ted Nordhaus, and Michael Schellenberger. They, in turn, are building on work done in the past by other self-declared green heretics like Richard D. North, Brian Clegg, and Wilford Beckerman. Beyond the field of conservation, I'm sorry, now I'm reading a bunch of this. I can't stop. Beyond the field of conservation, the neo-environmentalists are distinguished by their attitude toward new technologies, which they almost uniformly see as positive. Civilization, nature, and people can only be saved by enthusiastically embracing biotechnology, synthetic biology, nuclear power, geoengineering, and anything else with the prefix new that annoys. Greenpeace, the traditional green focus on limits, is dismissed as naive. We are now, in Brand's words, as gods, and we have to step up and accept our responsibility to manage the planet rationally through the use of new technology guided by enlightened science. Man, this is just, it's very dense, this article. I really would love to read this whole thing to you, but that's all I'm going to read of this, and I'm going to move on to another article with the title, A Kind of Dark Realism. This was sent to me by Robin Data. Why the climate change problem is starting to look too big to solve, and this is from Washington Post. What is the date on this article? I do not know. This is from December 3rd. In the daunting math of climate action, individual choices and government policies aren't adding up. Solar panels are being nailed to rooftops, colossal wind turbines bestride the plains and oceans, and a million electric vehicles are on US roads, and it isn't enough. Even if the world did an unlikely series of about-faces, halting deforestation, going vegetarian, paying $50 a ton carbon taxes, boosting energy efficiency, doubling car mileage, and more, it would not be enough. There's no silver bullet, said Andrew Jones, co-founder of the modeling firm Climate Interactive. There's silver buckshot, many actions in many domains. As the 24th UN Conference on Climate Change kicks off this week, a steady drumbeat of scientific reports have sounded warnings about current climate trajectories. One warned of the need to curb global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit over pre-industrial levels, instead of the widely accepted target of 2 degrees Celsius. Another warned of the growing gap between the commitments made at earlier UN conferences and what is needed to steer the planet off its current path to calamitous global warming. If it sounds downbeat, that's because it is. The world has waited so long that preventing disruptive climate change requires action, unprecedented in scale. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said in an October report. William Nordhaus, the Yale University professor who just won the Nobel Prize for his work on the economics of climate change, recently described his outlook like this. I never use the word pessimism. I always use the word realism, but I'd say it's kind of a dark realism today. Climate scientists and policy experts realize that they walk a fine line between jolting consumers and policymakers into action and immobilizing them with paralyzing pessimism about the world's ability to hit climate targets. If you're driving on a highway and the car in front of you stops short and you slam on brakes and realize that you're going to hit the guy no matter what, it's not the time to take your foot off the brake, said John Sturman, a professor of management at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Business School. And you certainly don't step on the gas. Sturman said that the world has missed the chance to contain warming without huge disruptions. Now it's technologically possible to do that, but we don't have the policies in place, he said. That's discouraging, but that just means we have to redouble our efforts. It's not that corporations and governments haven't attacked the problem or made breathtaking advances in energy technology. The cost of solar has plunged 78% for utility scale projects since 2010, and that's good. Over the same period, the cost of wind electricity fell nearly a quarter. The biggest turbines offshore now have arms weighing roughly 35 tons each that stretch nearly 2 football fields across. That's large. Even China is making some progress. Keyword some. While its rapidly growing economy keeps emissions rising overall, it is coughing out less carbon dioxide for every unit of economic output. But effective policy is lacking. Nordhaus advocates a whopping carbon tax, which the climate interactive model shows would kill off most coal, sharply reduce driving, and boost purchases of more fuel-efficient vehicles. So this is key. I'm going to stop right here. Again, I'm sorry, I messed up Jevons paradox the other day, or the other video. Thank you guys for helping me out in the comment section. It's not that I don't know what Jevons paradox is. I have a terrible time with names. I can be talking about all kinds of things and I know exactly what I'm talking about, but a lot of times the names elude me, and it's just the way my brain works or doesn't work. But right, so if you're killing off coal and sharply reducing driving, you have to let people know. You have to also talk about not selling people cars, and that's just such a key quagmire right there, because when you start talking about actually dealing with climate change, you have to start talking about decompressing or de-escalating our economy, de-escalating growth. You have to, talk to people, and then the last part of the sentence is boost purchases of more fuel efficient vehicles. Well, which one is it? If you're curtailing driving, but you're boosting fuel efficient vehicles, you're actually boosting driving. So you actually have to talk to people about not driving and not buying cars and not buying things and not, producing things and not, and we need more than that. We need more than just incremental, like, oh, maybe we'll just make different choices. It's not about the choices necessarily. It's about the overall picture being completely skewed in the favor of habitat destruction and just destroying the planet en masse. Getting such a carbon tax adopted in the United States, however, is hard to imagine. Well, exactly. Washington state voters in November rejected a $15 per ton carbon fee after big oil companies poured more than $31 million in the state. And then you have France, people rioting in the streets for a very, very small, over a very small tax on gas, which, whatever. If you're not explaining the problem to people correctly, then they're not going to be willing to take on the solutions. Congress hasn't shown any appetite for a carbon tax either. Proposal to impose a 40 per ton carbon tax and return the revenue to people in dividends has not caught fire yet. It doesn't need to catch fire. It actually just needs to be imposed. With the explanation to people that this is the problem, here's the solution. And that's really the, for so many of the problems that we, debate with, with the supposed intention of finding a solution to, like, taxes or Medicare or, whatever it might be, like Medicare for all, free college for all, free, education for all of these things are totally doable. Actually, throwing, all the resources we have at climate change is totally doable. You just have to, the problem is that you have to explain to people, A, this is real, B, this is a really big problem, C, here's how we fix it. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. You have to get TV, anchor people to go on TV and go like, guys, we're in big trouble. And this is, and you need politicians who are like, guys, we're in big trouble, and this is how we do it. It's just a really simple equation that nobody's willing to take or implement because they can't tell you the truth, because they're busy supporting this ecocidal economy that we run. Let me see. In France, President Emmanuel Macron has ignited protests, and we know about that. In an email, Nordhaus said that hitting the 2-degree target would require global carbon dioxide prices of about $250 a ton in 2020. Hardy, har. That's laughable. I mean, yes, that's what it would take, but if you think anybody's going to do that, again, without explanation, without, rising rapidly after that. This assumes that all major countries are on board and that economies can handle a large fiscal and trade shock in which energy expenditures rise by about $2 trillion in a few years. Exactly. So doing all that would actually destroy the economy and it would destroy the economic system, which is teetering, off of a cliff. The economy is, seconds away from imploding worldwide. We have, bond market bubbles and derivative bubbles and real estate bubbles, and they're all like just waiting to pop. And if you start raising the prices of fossil fuel, whatever the reason, whether it's a carbon tax or not, if you raise the prices of fossil fuels, say $1 a gallon, and sustain that rise for a year, 6 months to a year, those bubbles are popping. And so, in order to actually make a change, you need governments to say, like, look, guys, this is what's going to happen. Sorry, economy is going to tank. We got to do it. We got to we have to reorganize everything, and we have to explain it to all people. And this is the roadmap, and this is what we got to do. Like, that's how you do it. It's very simply done, not so simply implemented. You just have to start by telling the truth, and then people have to start by accepting the truth. Any climate change channel, we have to assume that this is settled science. This is happening. There's no debate about this. And again, talking to the doubters and the deniers that are on this channel, there's no debate. There's no doubting this. There's no. This is happening. So really, the only question is, what are we going to do? That is the only question. What are we going to do? How can we do anything in time to stave this off? And what are the actual policies that need to be implemented? We need to just start talking about government policies. Like, what are the actual policies we're going to do? Because, that's really the only road in front of us. There is no other road. There's either, do something about it or don't do something about it. Those are the only questions. The question about, whatever, CS extent or minimums or global, any of the things that you guys, the double Ds have to say about global warming are null and void and are just not worth the time to post on this channel. Don't post any more junk on this channel. I will delete you and I will block you. You're welcome to watch. You're welcome to have a debate if you're bringing something interesting to the table. If you're actually bringing facts to the table, okay, I'll talk to you. There's just not a lot of, you're bringing a lot of the guys that are on here that try to bring stuff in are just not bringing facts. you're not bringing facts, and you're bringing misinformation. If you post misinformation on this channel, I will delete it. We need action. We need conversation about what that action should be. We need it at a local level. We need it at a national level. We need it at a global level. Those are the only things that we need to be talking about. And we need to be describing the problem to people as best we can. And the problem is large, and I'm sorry to tell you that, and I'm sorry if that's hard to hear. I'm sorry if that's hard to deal with. Start figuring out how to deal with it. Those are my suggestions. That's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.